York. Ebro in the morning on Hot 97.
T-Bro in the morning. Laura Stiles. Yo, wrestling T. Laura Stiles.
I know. I'm supporting Rosenberg with a cheap heat T-shirt.
Well, because
Nice
he's
shirt.
falling off. He's got, what is this hat you're wearing?
I just wanted to wear a hat today. It's my haircut.
You like this team?
The Marlins? No, it's a DJ Khaled We the Best Miami Marlins collabo new era hat.
Okay, all right.
I'm not just
family.
an animal out here. And wrestling T will be back tomorrow. I didn't fall off.
All right. Well, speaking of never falling off and putting in great work,
There
we
you
have
go.
Carmen Perez here from Justice League NYC, the Gathering for Justice and all that. And who do you have with you today, Carmen?
Supreme.
Talking to the mic.
Supreme. Oh, I got Supreme with me.
And Supreme, what do you do, sir?
I'm the East Coast Director of Latino Afro Unity under the International Freedom Black Alliance.
Love it.
It's an organization started by Tori Russell, who also co-founded Hands Up Movement in Ferguson.
Dope, very dope. So today we want to do talk about the young man we asked several weeks ago, Laura, the story, Pedro Hernandez.
Pedro Hernandez, yeah.
Which he had been, I guess, arrested for a crime he didn't commit by a corrupt officer. The witnesses and everyone involved
And the victim.
and the victim said he
Right.
didn't have anything to do with it. He's still stuck on Rikers as of 2 weeks ago. And you guys finally got him bailed out.
He got bailed out.
Talking to the mic for me, Carmen.
All right, I will talk into the mic. So he got bailed out, about a week ago? Yeah, so we brought organizations together, and the RF Kennedy Human Rights Organization got involved. They were able to negotiate his bail down from $250,000 to $100,000 and bail him out. And so he's now with his family at this moment, and we're planning a rally tomorrow at 11 a.m. in front of the Bronx District Attorney's Office to, kind of talk about, supporting, dismissing the charges, but also supporting him and his family. And then there's obviously new cases, and I'm going to allow Supreme to talk about that.
When you say new cases, before we get to that, new cases against Pedro,
No, other people.
other individuals.
Against the officers, yeah.
Okay.
So there's some young people that have come forward talking about that they were coerced to actually testify and say that he was a person that shot when he was not the shooter.
But it's all connected to that one officer who was stripped from his badge, right? Yeah. Because I read in the newspaper that specific officer was he was responsible for a couple of arrests.
Well, he had collaboratively, him, Daniel Brady, the other detective, and D.A. Slott, they've had over 500 convictions together. So we don't know how many other cases are out there where he falsified
And what's the guy's
charges.
name that lost his badge?
David Terrell.
David Terrell. And he's been...
Well, he hasn't lost his badge. They have a modified duty.
Okay.
He's at the
Oh,
precinct.
wow.
He's
Because
at
what I
desk
read, I
duty.
thought he was stripped from
From
his
his
badge.
badge.
Yeah,
Nah,
he got stripped
he's
from his
on
badge.
modified duty.
Can we get a quick recap of the overall situation with Pedro?
So the overall thing with Pedro is at the age of 15, he was arrested for a shooting. The victim came forward and said that it wasn't him. The DA Slot still held on to the case. The mother hired a private investigator to find something that proved Pedro innocently. They found video. The video showed that at the time of the crime, Pedro was actually helping his mother with shopping bags into the building. The DA Slot allowed the case to run out 180 days, where it automatically has to get thrown out because he didn't take it to a grand jury. So right after that, another shooting occurs. They come pick him up again. They question him, let him go. The cops, they found a witness, allegedly. This witness claimed that Pedro was the shooter, and they did a sealed indictment. They came and got him on the sealed indictment. They gave him a $250,000 cash bond bail with a surety, $500,000 property. The bail itself is only used for big-time drug lords, because what the surety is, they want to go into your financial records going back 3 years, which is unheard of.
So they're treating Pedro like he's some big-time
drug
crime.
dealer. 15, 16, he's 15 years old at the time. When the grand jury indicts him, he's 16. He goes into Rikers Island. He goes in front of Barrett. Judge Barrett is a DA's wet dream. He gives everything to the DAs, nothing to the defendant. In order to get in front of Barrett, the DA has to say he's gang-related and we're looking to indict him on gang-related charges.
And did they said that about Pedro?
Yeah, that's how they was able to get in front of Barrett. But now once the case is in front of Barrett, he's stuck with Barrett.
We don't know Barrett. I don't know these people.
Well,
So-
Judge Barrett is like,
We've been on the
And I
air
hope I never meet
before.
them, to be
Yeah,
honest with you.
we've been here before in regards to Khalif Browder.
That's
And
right.
we understand what happened to Khalif Browder. He allegedly stole a backpack. Witness never came through, but they held him for 3 years, 2 years in solitary confinement. Pedro's been in Rikers for a whole year. Since he's been in Rikers, he's been like top-notch student, graduated high school, got a full ride scholarship. So if he wouldn't have gotten bailed out, he would have lost his full ride scholarship to college. He's also teaching other young people. They call him Professor Hernandez. But we understand what happened to Pedro is very similar to what happened to Khalif Browder. Unfortunately, Khalif took his life. And so that's why we're working so hard trying to get this young man out. But there are other young people like
Going
him
through the
on
same
Rikers.
things.
Exactly. And that's what this detective is actually revealing right now. And so there was another article.
Anthony Floyd is he's on Rikers right now.
Talking to the mic, Supreme.
Anthony Floyd is on Rikers right now. He's a young kid who at the age of 16, Terrell broke his eye socket badly.
The cop did.
The cop broke his eye socket. The kid is on Rikers Island for a shooting he didn't commit. There's video footage where he was actually helping the victim out to prove, like, if I shot you, why would I be helping you out? But there's footage showing that the victim saying he didn't shoot him. He's still on Rikers Island on $50,000 bail. And, right now he's depressed. He's told the private investigator several times he wants to kill himself. This is a kid, 16 years old. Like, it's sad.
That's the problem.
And so with the Pedro Hernandez case, he's on bail right now, and you guys are currently working to make sure all the charges get dropped because there's no base for anything that they have. We had Pat Moynihan of the NYPD on last week.
Chief of Patrol.
Chief of Patrol, so he's over all the cops, and asked him specifically about this case. He said that there's more to the case than just the one charge, according to the Chief of Patrol. He said, in this case, there's more than just this one case, and they're still investigating it, and he's out on bail right now. So I guess, and we couldn't get the specifics of the other case or other things, but he's saying it's more than just this one incident, right? So I bring that up to say that a lot of these young people are getting trapped in environments with friends and stupid shit. Like this guy's getting picked up while he's helping his mom with groceries or whatever's going on. Then he's outside hanging with his friends. One of his buddies is into some stupid shit. He's getting scooped up, et cetera, et cetera. All this stuff is happening. And I guess what we want to continue to do is have dialogue, right, about A, how we can protect our young kids and keep them out of trouble, and B, also hold the NYPD accountable if they're not being efficient with how they're handling young people, because raise the age is something that, while some legislation's been passed, we know it's not in a good situation because it's going to take 10 years for them to even get us to a point with a lot of the young people who are on Rikers or young people going to Rikers where they can get put in other facilities. So there's a lot of work for you guys to be done, right, Supreme?
Yeah, Pedro was a regular kid, rode his bicycle around the neighborhood, didn't get in much trouble at all. And it's not a crime to look brown and black. To me, that's not a crime. It's not a crime. Now, if you're being targeted, like Pedro's picture was put in the 42nd precinct at 15 years old on the bulletin board. And this is how officers were able to identify him. Anywhere he went, he was being harassed.
So are we starting off with, though, like he has no past whatsoever?
He had no past prior to the first shooting allegation, which proved his innocence. Then it was the second shooting. Then in between that, as you know, he had a little scuffle, like kids fight in front of the building. It was supposed to be a disorderly conduct. When he got to the precinct, they seen it was Pedro. The other kid that he was in a fight with lost his house keys, and now they charge him with robbery because the house keys were missing. So this is the type of stuff he was going through.
That's the war on our children. Like, we understand, it's kind of like that school to prison pipeline, where you throw a pencil at somebody, now it's assault with a deadly weapon. And so this is kind of what we as Justice League are constantly trying to fight up against, right? If Raise the Age was passed last year, Pedro would have never been in Rikers. Bottom line, right? But we're constantly having to navigate the system, understanding that we have to also educate the public as to what's happening to our kids. This is not an isolated incident, right?
Well, and I think what we always kind of gloss over is that everyone clearly understands what you just talked about, which we talk about. Mischief in our neighborhoods can lead to you being in jail. Right? Mischief in nicer neighborhoods or suburbs or white neighborhoods can lead to you being counseled.
Slapped on the wrist.
slapped on the wrist, somebody working with you on your behavior, right? And those luxuries aren't given to many of the black and brown kids, like you brought up a pencil, right? And you and I have talked about it because with the raise the age, if you get charged at your school with a violent crime, like an assault, like they said, he assaulted him with a pencil, right? Now you can go to Rikers even with the new raise the age thing.
I mean, even for a backpack, right? Like the backpack, stealing a backpack, somebody went to Rikers. Like, we're not even talking about violent crimes. We're talking about, like, these allegations that just don't uphold, and ultimately these kids' lives are lost.
And we're not even talking about mischief in these cases. We're talking about straight lies.
Well, and
Kids
then
are
there's that.
There's
Right.
kids being snatched from their homes, thrown in Rikers Island for crimes that they did not commit, and then given these outrageous bails that their families can't afford. I mean, shout outs to Kerry Kennedy. We had dinner with her. She was very
Now,
helpful.
who is she?
Kerry Kennedy's Robert Kennedy's daughter. She was married to the governor. She's the one who had the Kennedy firm come help Pedro and bail Pedro out. If it wasn't for someone like that, Pedro may still be in jail.
Right,
Because we don't have
yeah.
the resources. $250,000. We don't have nobody that can.
I mean,
say,
that's outrageous.
Outrageous, like.
I mean, we're talking about black and brown kids from the hood. They don't have the ability to post $250,000 bail. We're creating this cycle of poverty, right? So, I mean, there's a larger issue we have to deal with, and that's the whole system. But right now, we're trying to deal with getting Pedro's case dismissed.
And what's happening with the officer?
Well, he's
Terrell.
on modified duty. He's on the investigation. And just to piggyback on that precinct, 42nd precinct, they have 20% of all civil complaints in the whole city of physical abuse is under that one precinct. On that one shift, 3 to 11. 17 officers on that shift are all under investigation.
3 p.m. to 11 p.m.
Yeah. They're all under investigation. 17 of them. All run with Daniel Brady. They was all a part of the same
So you're
crew.
saying what you're suggesting is that at this precinct there were higher ups who like this was a sort of a poisoned place. Like this was the way they were teaching people to police.
Bro, this precinct, I said 20% of the entire city, of every precinct, is 20% of all the complaints, civilian complaint comes from that one precinct, that one shift.
And what area is this?
The 42nd precinct covers like 149th Street, Grand Concourse, the South Bronx.
South Bronx.
Right.
There's video footage out. 2 kids, it just came out today and a couple of days ago. The kid is saying how they used to drag him out his house 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, beat him up in the car, and force him to lie.
That just
Listen,
came out last night.
that just came out last night.
Tyrese Rebels or something like that.
Tyrese Rebels. Then you have the other kid. What's the other kid from that's in Green Correctional Facility?
Stevens?
William Stevens.
Yes.
They was being dragged out their mother's house 3 o'clock in the morning and forced. Listen, you're gonna go to this precinct. We're gonna show you a picture, and you're gonna identify him as the guy who shot such and such, and you was an eyewitness. And these kids did it.
Yeah, and these kids were saying that, the only picture they were being shown was Pedro's. I mean, there's just a lot of things that are coming out now. Since Pedro's case has gone national, there are other young people that are speaking up. And so we're also encouraging those individuals that have been put in that situation to come out and talk to, people like you, because it's important that we, reveal the truth, because it's crazy. I mean, yesterday we were in a meeting and I was like, I've never really dealt with something like this. We understand that there's so much corruption, but at this moment, it's unreal.
These are the stories that we've always heard about, right? Growing up, I'm 41. All my life, I heard about these stories, and you never really believe it till it's up close and personal. When I reached out to Jessica Perez
That's
to
the
get
mom.
involved, the mom.
That's Pedro's mom.
Pedro's mom.
Yeah, to get involved and help her. When she told me the story, I thought I was like, this came out of a John Grisham novel, has to be. Then as the story developed, now it's a Robert Lumlum novel. Like, that's how deep and that's how many layers this story has to it.
And when we called it, so let me just tell you the power of people, right? And relationships with folks. I had a conversation with Supreme, Jessica on the phone on a Friday, right? Sean King hit me up. He's like, yo, Carmen, I need you to work on this. Hit me up. He put me on an email thread. We know each other from years and years, right? So I get on a call with them. She tells me she's available on a Tuesday. On Monday, I get my team to send out an email to about 40 organizations. About 37 of those 40 organizations showed up in the Bronx for a meeting with the mom to talk about how can we support her.
That's amazing.
That's what I'm saying, right?
That's
because
amazing.
for us, it's like unreal. Like, how can this be happening when we've been fighting for Khalif, when we've been fighting for Raise the Age, just organize the Women's March, all these different things. And so for us, it's like, we have to expose this. This can't happen in our neighborhoods at this time.
Do you believe? Because I do, but for you guys, do you believe that corruption that you guys are talking about is people just covering their ass, like they're like an officer making a mistake, picking on a kid, doing whatever, doing some dumb shit, and then having to go and cover their ass? Or do you believe this is a larger thing as going towards just keeping black and brown people, specifically men from certain neighborhoods, in the prison pipeline?
I think it's a culture. So, a mistake or covering your ass, that's one time. When you got how
60,
many
75 boys, when you got officers that approach beautiful single black and Hispanic mothers in the hood saying, if you sleep with us, nothing will happen to your boys. They'll be safe. We'll protect them. They won't get arrested. This ain't a mistake. This is calculated. This is something that's been going on.
And when you say calculated to do what? To keep a community in fear? That's what I'm trying to get to.
It's like it's taking advantage of your power.
Okay.
Right.
So it's more corruption than. So if they play a piece in the bigger prison pipeline system, they do that more as it's like de facto, just because the system's set up that way. You have other people who benefit off it, but they just fall into line of abusing their power.
Right.
That Peter. But the most important thing is this. Since I've been involved in this, one of the things that needs to be taken away from the precinct and up to the DA's office is the quota system. See, if you don't have a quota for cops to match, you wouldn't have all these cops having to falsify cases to meet quotas.
To meet their numbers.
I thought cops don't have quotas
We've been here
anymore.
before talking about the
even in
quota
the
system
ADA
with Edwin Raymond, right? So
And I
NYPD 12.
asked the last chief of police. We asked specifically about quota systems. I don't know if I've talked to Jimmy O about quota systems, but I believe that they said that there is no quota system, and people say that's a lie.
Yeah, police officers have come out with the NYPD 12, Edwin Raymond, who has said we had to meet quotas. And because I did not meet quotas, all the rest of the police officers did not want to meet their quota, right? They didn't feel they had to target Black and Latino individuals, particularly men. They were
Reprimanded?
reprimanded. Yes, thank you for that word.
Ebro, what it sounds like we have to do is ask the NYPD about this 42nd precinct. We got to ask a question,
These are the numbers.
These are the
numbers. What do you have to say?
So yeah, we'd like to. We'll ask them about that.
Ask the
And
DA.
do you guys meet with the NYPD?
We haven't met with the NYPD. We've had officers that were part of the NYPD that came to some of our meetings. One of the officers gave us the CPL
Not around
240.
this particular
Not
case.
around this. Well,
but
as
yes,
far as I go, not
as
this.
you know, you can't just. You got to play the inside-outside game. You have to be able to talk to those individuals. Once you talk to them, then you're able to hold them accountable. Now, if they don't know what you're talking about and you're just like, rah protesting, which for us, we have to. Not that we sit and try to negotiate, but they have to hear what we have to. We have organizations like CPR. And they go out and talk to several police officers. We talk about this quota system. We talk about how, police brutality is still a big issue in our communities. And now we have this whole issue in the South Bronx that's happening. So yes, we have conversations with them. They tell us, they obviously we don't get enough answers. But at this moment, we haven't had a conversation about.
Have you talked to the new chief of police? Have you been? We got invited.
With concerning this? No, we
No,
haven't.
not concerning this, but concerning culture, right?
No, we haven't had that.
We've talked to Pat Moynihan because this came up. But when we went down there to have a meeting at One Police Plaza, obviously we were skeptical, but we went because we got the invite. And there were individuals that worked there at NYPD that reached out to us to say, hey, we love what you guys do on the show. We appreciate the honest dialogue because, we give cops the business sometimes. We don't like it, but also we give cops props if they're trying to clean up. Went down there to hear them. The commissioner took time out to come in. It was just us. It wasn't a big media thing. It wasn't for public. And they talked to us in a way that I felt like was different than anything I had seen with the NYPD before. And
What
they
do you
admitted,
mean by that?
meaning they admitted and took responsibility for their past. And we're like, look, we know we have a bad reputation. We know we've done wrong in the past. We know we have work to do to get the community back, and we need help. They even went into talking about, they sounded smarter than they had in the past. Like they sounded like they were trying to be more intellectual and learn. Like they were open. Am I wrong, Laura? Like it
No,
felt-
no. I felt that too. I mean, listen, we definitely didn't leave them off the hook. When we had questions, they were ready to accept. Listen, not all of us are great, but then there's a big chunk of us who really believe in change and changing the way we interact with the communities and strengthening the relationship within communities, you know?
Well,
That sounds very
and-
similar to the meeting we had with them. Yeah.
And when we fried them and was like, look, here's the biggest problem. When y'all fuck up, nobody gets in trouble.
Right.
The community's never going to be good with that. That's always going to be a problem. And you can communicate the processes and this and that and et cetera, but when you have the guy like in Staten Island who's still getting police protection after we saw him choke a guy, Eric Garner, on we're not going to be good. Like that's never going to be good. And they accepted that. Like, it was like, okay, we understand that, and we have things we have to deal with. And as you could see, like, and at the time, there was, they had just busted those corrupt cops. It was like 20 of them or something that had been selling drugs. And they had just done, and they're like, look, we also are trying. They had just fired a guy for something who then went and turned and put out a campaign against the NYPD because, they're dealing with their own shit, right? Of trying to get people out of there. So, and I know it's a lengthy process. None of this stuff is going to turn around in time, but I guess I'm appreciative of living in a city, the largest city in the country, where we have direct access to the chief of police and the mayor. That's kind of unheard of. So while I can be as pissed off as I can about the 42nd precinct and the shit that we know that goes on, at the same time, I have to somehow be appreciative that we have a direct line of access and we're making some progress. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, we don't want to paint it with a broad brush, right? The fact of the matter is there could be officers we're talking to who sincerely believe what they tell us, and in that same department, there are other people doing terrible things.
And they
it's a
admitted to that too,
huge,
though.
but we
That
do have
happens
to
in
ask direct
everything,
questions.
right? Like,
Yeah.
look, if you look at a business, you got the CEO, you got the main dude, the founder, then you
Look
got the
here,
people
man,
that
we
are
got
working.
Funkmaster Flex. Flex, and I use this example all the time. Flex says some wild shit about Jay-Z. It doesn't help my relationship with Jay-Z and Drake. Like, it just doesn't. And I got to be like, yo, that's Funk. And they're like, but that's your guy, man. What's going
Right.
on?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's the same idea where you're like, yo, Flex, what the fuck are you doing, bro? And he's like, ha, 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 ha. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, yo, you fucking up relationships.
Well, I know he put my son on, so I'm grateful
So
for
you're
that.
right.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
there
yeah.
you go.
know,
See?
my brother, my son
Now we
got
all-
it.
Everybody
we
got
all-
an agenda.
Exactly.
Everybody got an agenda.
So, okay, talk to us about the Pedro Hernandez rally that's going on. When is it taking place? And-
Tomorrow, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. at 198 East, 161st Street in the Bronx, right in front of the district attorney's office.
So there's going to be many speakers that are going to be there. The mom's going to be there. We have elected officials, Senator Gustavo Rivera. We have community organizations. We have clergy. It's going to be a agenda full of people that are concerned and they're wanting to help the family and also want to fight against this injustice. So it's called Justice for Pedro. We're also going to have my son perform. So, we're going to have artists, clergy, organizations, and
Everybody.
family members
So
come
look,
out.
we want Darsha Clark, the head DA of the Bronx, to hear us loud and clear. She was the judge that sat on Khalif Browder
Browder's.
3 or 4 times. She could have let him go years, in the beginning. So we don't want her to make the same mistake with Pedro. There's other kids in there, like I said, Anthony Floyd, many others. Let's not make the same mistake. You have the time now to rectify your past by clearing this up. So we're gonna do it right in
And it's
front of our
not
building.
political. These are our kids.
Yeah,
like
that's
these
right.
are our children. Pedro has a full ride scholarship to college, right? He graduated with honors. This is a good
just applied
young
to
man.
13 schools.
These are our kids. They deserve a better opportunity, and that's what this young person is trying to do. So we just want to make sure we wrap him around with mad love, and support.
If you want to know more about Pedro Hernandez or you want to follow Carmen or Supreme, give out information. Start with you, Supreme, because the title, the organizations you work for, the titles are very long. So I don't want to botch
I
through it.
mean, if you want to, I'm out to helping all the children. You could get me on Facebook under Eric Rivera or on Instagram on Superstar Supreme. If you got a child that's going through this, hit me. We there. I'm put the team together, hit Carmen up, and we're going to get the traction going.
And then
Yeah.
Justice League NYC, of course.
Yeah, so we're on Facebook, Justice League NYC, on Insta and Twitter, NY Justice League, and my personal is MS Lady Justice 1, Miss Lady Justice 1.
There it is. Carmen Perez Supreme. Thank you
Thank
guys
you. We
so much.
appreciate
Keep
you
up
guys.
your work.
Good luck.